Which house is it? It's in the one suitcase.
Get them party shots.
Oh, goodness.
I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's board meeting. This is the 21st Board of Directors meeting of the City of Hot Springs and for 2018, and it'll be our last City Board meeting of the calendar year. At this time, I'd like to call upon Melissa Glenn for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Lloyd Jackson, Assistant Superintendent of Hot Springs School District. Ms. Glenn.
God, we just come before you right now because we are so thankful for you, God. God, we're thankful for this year that you've given us, God. I just want to honor you for every change. God, in the midst of every change that's happened this year, every election, every reassignment, Lord, that you have been faithful to give us exactly who we need when we needed it. So we just ask you give each one of our directors, our mayor, our manager, wisdom, God, for tonight's meeting and for everything that's going ahead of us. God, we thank you for this season that you've given us. We thank you that you came near, that you took on flesh, that you took our sins, that you've given us hope. And God, we pray that as we spend time with families and friends, God, that you would keep each one of us safe and that you would return us safely. God, we ask for fresh vision for the new year. We look forward to what you're going to do, God. We know that you don't disappoint. So we just trust you for this meeting and for this future. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
The pledge led by Mr. Jackson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order, and please call the roll.
Davidson. Jones.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Garcia.
Here.
Foley. McCabe.
Here. Here. At this time, we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or items to be removed from the consent agenda and placed under new business? Director Williams.
I move for approval of the agenda.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Recognition of guests. Oh, wait a minute. Let's consider approval of minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of December 4th, 2018. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the minutes as submitted.
Motion by Director
Mayor.
Jones, seconded by Director Clark. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. We have Mr. Gary Troutman, President of Hot Springs Metro Partnership. Please come forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. I'd like to deliver a bi-monthly report, if I may, on behalf of the Metro Partnership. I'm pleased to tell you all that we've had 5 site visits in 2018, the most we've had in anyone's recollection in the last several years. That is truly a testament to having a business-friendly mayor, board of directors, and city manager. And kudos to all of you for promoting Bill Burrow 2 weeks ago. He'll continue to do a fantastic job in this spot now that the interim tag has been removed. It's also a testament to our elected leaders realizing the importance of the city and county, as our new county judge sits in the audience tonight, working on the same page as well as supporting the concept of regionalism. And the mayor filled you in at a previous meeting about how we've all been working in conjunction with Hot Spring and Clark counties, most recently in a big meeting on November 29th, and myself with my counterparts from Malvern, Hot Springs Village, and Arkadelphia on December 7th. 2 of the 5 projects I mentioned are very much alive, and 2 more will be excited to announce to you in 2019, with one likely very early in the year. Cole McCaskill and I just returned from meeting with an organization from Pensacola, Florida, at the direction of Wayne Smith and Bruce Jones from Oaklawn and Tony Houston from CHI St. Vincent. Our 2 largest employers in the community work with this company on the corporate side and wanted us to see what they offered on the community growth strategy side. I'll have much more to tell you on this topic as it develops. I told you last time we'd be talking about workforce. Michelle Ratcliffe from our staff, myself, Kelly Embry, and Robin Pelton from National Park College, and 2 members from the Arkansas Economic Development Commission hosted a lunch and learn at the Chamber last week with 20 local manufacturing partners in attendance. We plan to do this quarterly to build the camaraderie and size of this group, as well as keep the concerns of our local industrial partners on the forefront. And along those lines, on the heels of and in conjunction with our recent trip to Batesville, in which all 7 of our local school districts, including 4 superintendents, Representative Les Warren, Dr. John Hogan from National Park College, and Darren Beckwith from Dawson Educational Co-op, and 26 people overall in the schools and the group, we will be hosting a career exploration fair for all Garland County 11th graders on January 31st. We thank Steve Arison for partnering with us to make that happen, as well as all 7 of our local school superintendents for their support. And finally, thanks again to Steve Arison and his staff, Eric Jackson from Oaklawn, Brian Smith from Alliance Rubber, Robert Tankersley from Window Mart, and Leslie Nally from Hot Springs Village POA as they join Cole, Michelle, and me in presenting as a partnership hosted Leadership Hot Springs for Economic Development Day last Tuesday. And I got to visit with 21 site consultants from across the country earlier this month to tell them of all the wonderful things we have going on in Hot Springs right now and in the near future. And fortunately, there are an incredible amount of things to discuss with them. So thank you for your time tonight, and Merry Christmas, and I'll be happy to try to answer any questions if I may.
Any questions of Mr. Troutman? Director Garcia.
Of the 5 site visits, how many of those are still in play?
4. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Thank you.
We're excited, very much so.
Any other questions or comments? Well, we certainly thank you and your team for all that you do, and look forward to working with you in 2019. And maybe some of these deals can be wrapped up in a good bow package and delivered in 2019.
Well, we appreciate the support of the city and you all, and I would like to recognize several on our Metro Partnership Board are here tonight, so appreciate their support as well.
Anything we can do, make sure you ask.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. This time we'll hear from our city manager, Mr. Bill Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor. Briefly, just wanted to mention a few things. The city has received full grant funding for the David Watkins Park. This has been a great collaborative effort with the Park Avenue Community Association, as they have raised funds, as well as the Civitans. Through an announcement letter from Governor Asa Hutchinson, the Arkansas Department of Parks and Tourism recently awarded the City of Hot Springs $230,000. It was the full grant funding request that the city submitted. We would also have matching funds to complete this project. The funds will be used for lighting, a barrier-free playground, pedestrian bridge, restroom, landscaping, and amphitheater completion, which, if you are familiar with the park, we've got about half of that completed. The city is partnering again with the Park Avenue Community Association and very active with the Civitans on this project, and I know Director Davidson has been a great help in that area as well. So we're very pleased that we have full funding, and this park will come to fruition. We believe in 2019 we should have it completed. As most probably know, we had a significant fire today on Albert Pike at a multiple story building at 401 Albert Pike. And I received a call early this morning. I was actually out of town from Acting Chief Tom Broughton, and he had stated that he needed some additional support from Public Works and Utilities, and was having some fire flow issues. They were connecting to several different lines trying to bring in water, and actually those lines, some of those lines were connected to the same main. So I happened to be with Matt Dunn with Christ Engineers and Monty Ledbetter, our utilities director. We were able to pull that up on a tablet, look at the system and the model that the city has invested in and completed. We were able to look at 2 particular fire hydrants in that area that came directly off a 20-inch line, and was able to increase substantially the flow that they were able to use for that building. So we were very glad that we had the model in this particular case. And our public works staff were also very supportive. Tom sent me a email that I just received just moments ago. So I wanted to share that because I think it embodies what every department in our city is about. City Manager Burrow, Shift Commander Hawthorne, Training Officer Ferris, and I were discussing how impressive the smooth transition today with everyone involved. So I felt an email should be sent on behalf of Fire Department expressing our gratitude to all the city departments that showed up in force for the structure fire we had at 401 Albert Pike. As Denny McFate put it, it was a true team effort today. From my last count, we had over 10 different city departments represented and put their field of expertise forward, which had a positive impact on the incident. There is no way I can go through the list of departments or city employees of those departments that showed up, but hopefully you can pass on how much we appreciated them. And we certainly do, as well as all of our firefighters that worked that particular structure fire for several hours. But when we talk about teamwork, that has been something that I think has been a culture change over the past several years, and we truly are able to exhibit that when we have needs such as what happened today. And finally, we had a meeting with Congressman Westerman. In attendance was Glenn Barentine, our airport director, Steve Harrison with Visit Hot Springs. We had the El Dorado airport director in attendance as well. And this was in regards to our essential air service. The meeting was very productive. At the end of the day, Congressman Westerman had committed to meeting with Congressman Cohen out of Memphis to write a bipartisan letter of support for our EA service. If you're not familiar, we have a really good essential air service at the airport. The contractor or the vendor that we have that currently has that contract, they've got, I don't know how many, I believe it's 4 flights a day to Dallas. 3, I'm sorry. Thank you, Glenn. Mm-hmm. 3 flights a day to Dallas, but we're trying to add a Memphis leg so we can go both east and west. And with this particular proposal that they've submitted, they have indicated that they would be able to do that, at least 1 flight a day to Memphis, and a return. So we're very appreciative of Congressman Westerman in supporting this effort and meeting with Congressman Cohen. So hopefully we'll be able to get that news over the next week or two. Of course, it doesn't mean we're going to get that funding or that particular vendor selected, but I think with their support we have a much greater chance. So. And finally, I'd just like to say, thank you to the board for the appointment to city manager. I'm very excited about that. I think we've got great things happening throughout the city, throughout the community. Looking forward to working with all of those that we work with on a daily basis just to make Hot Springs a better place to live, and wishing all of our employees and citizens a very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you. This time we'll hear from our individual directors on announcements of upcoming events. Anybody have an announcement of an upcoming activity?
Oh, yes, Mayor. On Thursday from 4 to 7, the Gateway community will be having Santa Larry will be here from I still call it the Mall of America because he's got a license. You have to be licensed to be a Santa Claus now. He'll be in Hot Springs at the Hotel Hot Springs Hotel, right down there on Melbourne. And from 4 to 7, we'll be giving out toys to the children from 0 to 12 years old. 13, you're not going to get a present. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to remind those that may be interested in applying for a Habitat house with Habitat for Humanity next year. The applications are due to them on December 27th. Or if you know of someone that might be interested, to encourage them to get those applications in. And the city manager mentioned the barrier-free playground that's coming in for disabled children at the David Watkins Park, but I believe also, don't we have that coming to Family Park?
Yes, we do.
And it's good that we're able to increase our access for the disabled.
Yes, ma'am.
Just want to do a shout out to the Mid-America Science Museum. Their last opportunity to see dino lights is this Friday, the 21st of December. I know that they, along with Garvin Woodland Gardens, have been impacted with the torrential rains that we've been having. And hopefully they can get the Mid-America Science Museum can have a dry evening, and so the children and young parents can get out there and enjoy, and older people as well. And Garvin Woodland Gardens goes on for a few more, I guess, through the end of the year. So they have a few more opportunities to publicly have a few more opportunities to get out there and enjoy those lights as well. So
I was just there before I came to the board meeting. They were quite busy.
well, very good, very good. So there's no further announcements. We'll move to the consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of items that are routine in nature and do not warrant discussion. And so I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Director Garcia, all in favor of the consent agenda as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is adopted. We have a number of resolutions and ordinances to act on tonight. We do have some people that have signed up to speak, and just ask you to adhere to the 3-minute rule. And I think, do we have our clock operational tonight?
We do.
All right. So we got a clock, and there is no trap door, but there will be a buzzer on the little timer. So with that, we'll begin with Resolution R18-160, and I ask the city attorney to read by title.
Mayor, this is Resolution R18-166, a resolution fixing a time and date for a hearing to vacate certain street right-of-way located along Martha Lane. That concludes your reading. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Got a motion by Director Clark, seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Director Jones. I was our staff member for this.
I'll handle this one, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. This particular item comes to the board as a request to vacate a certain street right-of-way. The petitioner requesting it is Oaklawn Jockey Club. The aerial map that you see there is the area just off of Golf Links Road. The Jockey Club wishes to vacate this particular area for future development. They are the owner of record of all parcels on either side of that particular street right-of-way. And really what you're looking at there is approximately 30 feet wide by 635 feet in length for Martha Lane. Martha Lane was part of the Roscoe Davis subdivision. The subdivision was obviously never fully built out, so the road was never completed, and it was never conveyed to the public to the city. Excuse me. The process for street vacations require that the board set a public hearing date, which with the New Year's holiday, your next board meeting will not be until January 15th. So we would run a notice in the newspaper 2 times prior to that January 15th board meeting date, setting the date and time for the public hearing, and then following that public hearing, if the board sees fit to vacate this particular street right-of-way, that would be the ordinance that would accomplish that task. But this right here has no particular action to it other than to set the public hearing date for January 15th. That concludes the presentation. Any questions?
Very good.
Thank you.
We had no members of the audience sign up for this item. Is there any discussion amongst board members? Hearing none, please call the roll on resolution number R18-166.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll consider resolution R18-167 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R18-167, a resolution approving certain intra-city transportation route enhancements pursuant to resolution number 5417. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion to second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So
Um,
moved.
Got Director Clark, seconded by Director Williams. And Kathleen Lambert, Director of Intracity Transportation, is going to give us a staff report.
Good evening, directors, and thank you for having me this evening. Today I'd like to talk about the Hot Springs Intercity Transit 2019 service enhancements. We took on this project starting this summer. Basically, the extension for service hours was handed to me about 3 hours after I arrived. I had a few notations. I had a few folks come in and ask me about what are you going to do with the system. And so after working through some things with our staff, we did investigations in the community. We investigated every route, every stop. We did a stop review. We looked at the schedule to see if we could enhance our service hours without adding staff. And we presented all those sketch plans to the city, to our directors, to Lance Spicer and Bill Barrow to kind of take a look at it. And then we proceeded to put this package together and take it to the public for public comment. We started our public comment period on November 15th with our Transportation Advisory Committee, and we've met with subsequent neighborhood groups, business interest groups. I met with both the Levi Towers and the Garland Towers community on separate occasions, and so tonight is the presentation that I've given to the community and the culmination of our comment period. So let's get to the enhancements for this year. So this is our existing service map, and some of you might be familiar with it. I know Director Davidson was in this week to ride with us, so thank you very much. So after looking at the system, there's a few things. We made some adjustments to based on some comments that we've heard from the public. So our first proposal, as I alluded to before, is to extend our service hours during the weekday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're going to extend it from 6 a.m. to 8:30 p.m., and we feel that's going to be a great service enhancement, especially for those who need to get a ride to a job. One of the things in our community is our bus doesn't extend over the retail service hours, so that 8:30 mark will help people get home from work, not just to work. And then our weekend service is going to stay the same at 10 a.m. and to 6 p.m., and then we have no Sunday service right now. So this represents all the service we can put out on the street with every piece of equipment that we have and with every staff member we have in our department. So I wanted to point out we've done some work on the route schedules, and this is kind of important because we're concerned about on-time performance, and we're also concerned about how to make it easier for folks to learn how to ride the system. So we went through and reviewed all the time points, and time points are the points that the bus needs to make a certain time at a certain location. So between the transportation depot and the first stop at the Arlington, say, for example, on Route 3, there's a certain time, but there's stops in between. Okay, so they have to be at the Arlington at 15 after. You also notice on the schedule, the time is listed in clock-facing times. Okay, so I know when I leave the depot at 10 after, I'm going to make my first stop at, in this case, 15 after. And I know I'm going to be to CHI St. Vincent's at the half an hour mark. So why is that important? That's important so someone can keep it in their head. So if they got off at the hospital for a 2 o'clock doctor's appointment, they know they have to be done by 3:30 to get out there to catch their bus. And we feel it's going to be more intuitive not only for the passengers to understand the schedule, but also for our drivers to meet those time points in a better on-time performance. And there's a little bit more wiggle room for traffic in between the time points now too. So it'll give them so they'll be more on time. So our first route change proposal is to provide service to the Hot Springs High School and the new junior high school. And that is down Emory Street. So we'll be taking a right off of Emory from Higdon Ferry, and we'll go ahead and we'll serve the junior high school and the senior high school. And then at the end of Emery Street, there's also a daycare center. It was a pretty large one. So I think it'll give our students quite a bit of opportunity. If you have a little part-time job and you leave school early, it'll give you an option to take the bus. If you need a ride to school in the morning, it also will give you an option to take the city bus instead of riding either the yellow school bus or having your parents drive you. And we know in front of all these schools, well, it's what I like to call the student conga line, you know. So we're hopefully going to provide a ride for students that's an alternative. The other thing, since it goes to 8:30, you know, we have football games on Friday nights. And I don't know about you, but my mom was a working mom, and she couldn't always take me to school functions, and we didn't have a bus service in my town when I was growing up. So I think this will give people an opportunity to take the bus with their friends, go to the football game, and have some fun and head home. So they can use the bus for this. Also, after we go down Emery Street, then we head down Panama, and then at the end of Panama is Macaulay Court. And you can see the little detail in orange. That's the new Medical Row deviation. So there are about 6 or 8 clinics down Macaulay. At the end is the CHI Pediatric Clinic. And we have quite a few folks who end up walking down there with their small children, and it's kind of a drag walking with your small children in the rain to get to the pediatric clinic. So now this is a requested deviation. You can ask the bus driver or call into the transportation depot to get a ride down the road. After we go down Macaulay, or we turn back onto Higdon Ferry, and we now circle in front of the CHI St. Vincent's a little bit differently. We head in the first right-hand driveway, and the reason why we're reversing the direction that we travel now is because it puts our bus door right in front of the hospital entrance so that it's now ADA accessible. Our current stop is opposite that driveway, and that is not an accessible ADA stop. So it's very important for us to be able to serve folks with disabilities, obviously, at the hospital, and this will correct that issue. Then we come back out to CHI St. Vincent's Drive, and we go back down Higdon Ferry. So our next proposal is on Route 2, which, as you might know, the Senior Center closed this year. So all the route pieces that we used to serve the Senior Center are no longer needed because it's not located there anymore. So to kind of streamline the route, and we're going to keep it on Washita in that section. We're going to add a new stop across the street from the Chamber, and we're going to add a couple of stops on Hawthorne and at the courthouse on Washita. And that will serve that route, straighten it out a little bit. It will also be part of the new business district that's developing there, and there'll be bus stops to serve that location. Also on Route 2, we're moving the route from Baird Street to Thornton Street. It's just one block change, but it makes a big difference in safety. So when we make the left-hand turn onto Hobson, there's a rise in the road, and so it makes it very difficult for the driver to see cars coming over that rise. With a little one-block distance, that allows our driver to be able to see that car approaching and make that turn more safely. And then we'll change the Baxter Street stop over one block to Thornton from Baird Street, and that's a minor adjustment. So we think that will work out pretty well for folks in that neighborhood. We also are removing the stop from the Westgate Shopping Center for the Workforce Center. We're putting the stop out at the street. We're pushing it closer to the driveway where there's a sidewalk to let people out. But that shopping center has become so congested, it's a little difficult for us to get the big vehicle in there. So we think we can serve this shopping center a little better and more safely by putting the stop a little closer so that people can walk up into the shopping center. Now, Route 3 is a little complicated. So kind of stick with me here. It kind of affects the center of the city. That's why you're seeing all the routes crossing. So from the transportation depot, we're going to go up Market Street, and then we're going to go straight up Central. That's not the route we take now. The route we take now goes on Bridge Street and goes by the Visitor Center. And that intersection is a little funny. It's a flashing light. It's not very well signalized for bus transfer and bus travel. And, remember, we're going through that intersection 10, 12 times a day. So we are actually, not having that signalized to allow the bus to travel through there efficiently is not helping traffic in general. So we think that Market Street is going to work out a little bit better. We'll turn right on Central, and we'll go up Park and Whittington, and we'll return on Central Avenue. And then we'll go back down Market Street. When we swing back down Market Street, we're going to swing over to Broadway Terrace. That Broadway Terrace stop is a connection that we have now already in place. It's not a new stop. It's just a stop we're not using. And a lot of people walk from Malvern down to the transportation depot. So this will kind of save them a little bit. It puts them right on the transportation depot plaza. And then we'll carry on up onto Malvern. And it also creates a really nice synergy and connection between the bus route and the Malvern Avenue Gateway project. So again, it's expressing what we're trying to build there in terms of combination of transportation and development. And then on the return, for Route 3, we usually go to the high-rise circle, and we serve the high-rise, the Mountain View Towers there, and we'll still do that. We come down Reserve Street, and then we take a left onto Opera. Now, instead of going on to Spring and going through the intersection near the Visitor Center that we're trying to kind of stay out of a little bit, we're going to come straight down Opera Street, and we're going to serve right in front of this building on Convention Boulevard. And it does two things. It gives us a stop at City Hall, and it also gives us a stop to serve the Convention Center. And then we'll return to the transportation depot that way. And so you can see from the diagram, it kind of straightens out our routes a little bit, kind of consolidates the routes. There are new stops on Chapel Street and a new stop right in front of Maxine's to help serve the Central Avenue downtown corridor a little bit better. And then the second change on Route 3 is we'd like to remove the route from Crescent Street and put it onto Silver. Silver runs in front of the Langston School, and in conjunction with trying to serve the high school and the junior high school, we think that it would be important to also serve the elementary school in this particular neighborhood. And again, there's also a large daycare center and preschool associated with the school. By going a little further down Malvern and hooking onto Silver Street, we also create a stop pair at the grocery store. So when the bus goes by the grocery store there at Silver and it goes down to the National Park Medical Center and turns around, you could effectively run into the grocery store, buy a jug of milk, and then run across the street and catch the bus on its way back. You can't do that now. Okay. It also serves the laundromat. I happened to run into a gentleman with his laundry bag sitting in his seat. I think it's going to be effective for folks who need to access some of those businesses. And it also goes by the barber and a couple other places along Malvern, and it gives a little more service on the business corridor. And it's still only a couple of blocks difference from the neighborhood that it's serving on Crescent Street, that piece. And we still will have a stop at Silver and Crescent. And then the stop that serves the elementary school will be Palmetto, Silver and Palmetto. Okay. So this is what our proposed map looks like. A few changes. I think the biggest effort is to really try to change the service time so that we can really try and match some of the retail service jobs in our community and be more supportive of those who are working and need a low-cost ride to work. But again, transit is for everyone. So Oak Lawn, for example, the race time will be served in later hours. So when the last post time goes off, if you're down at Oak Lawn, you can catch a ride up to the Arlington, after the last post time. Mm-hmm. And, I always think that's really important. We want people to enjoy themselves in Hot Springs, and we don't particularly want them to be driving around. So our bus is a great alternative. And I wanted to thank you for your time. And if anybody has any questions, we're going to put up the Google map. So if you want to zoom in to see a specific detail, you can ask me questions about that.
Very good. Any questions of Ms. Lambert from the board? Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, ma'am. If when you go on Route 1 to the hospital at CHI St. Vincent, if it's stopping at the hospital entrance, if you have passengers that need to go to the Women's Center or the doctor's building, does the driver pull in and let them out there?
Not currently. We have one stop in front of the hospital, and then we turn out the lower drive, and then we have a stop in front of Longhorn to serve the shopping center. So no, we don't have additional stops on the campus. We just have the one right now.
And on Route 2, you were talking about at Westgate, they're not going to pull up to the workforce center all the way. It's all the way in the back. Are they going to get out at the street?
Right. So they'll be out at this. They'll be able to just pass the driveway to enter the shopping center. There's a location that we've selected to put a stop out there, and it's on a sidewalk, and there are connecting sidewalks into the shopping center.
I know, but I've ridden that route, and I've seen that he drove all the way up to, because that's all the way at the back, and it's up a hill, and some people going there weren't physically.
Well, that's true,
but if they need help, would he drive up there?
We're proposing to remove that deviation because, as I said, the parking lot is quite congested. There's more shops that are filled in there, and so our vehicle isn't really made for the small drive aisles in that location. So with the big bus, we'd prefer not to go into that shopping center. But if someone has special needs and they're affected by these changes, they can apply for paratransit service, which is door-to-door. We use a smaller vehicle. And a good point, Director Garcia, I'm glad you brought that up. With the extended service hours, our paratransit service hours will also be extended.
Okay.
So our last reservation will be 7:15 p.m. in the evening, and then that'll allow us to get everybody home before the end of close of service. Because it's a half an hour pickup window for everybody. And then we also serve the city limits, not just the federal requirement of 3/4 of a mile off the bus route. So that means that all the folks in the annex area, the brand new annex area, that means folks pretty far afield have access to paratransit services. And we think the extension in service hours, and I know because I've talked to some of our customers, they will find it very handy. In fact, one of our regular customers called me the other day to change his destination at the end of the day, and it was the last trip that we could make for him. And he said, well, I really need to go to this store, and I'll get home. And, that's not how you want to have that happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he has an ability to not only after work, because he works, after work, go to the shops, do his little bit of shopping, whatever he needs to do, and now get home because we can give him an extra ride home.
And on Route 3, I wasn't sure, does it go into, on Sawtooth, to the Veterans
Yes,
Clinic?
it does. Yes,
okay.
we do that. Yep. That's not changing.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, before you call on people in the audience to speak, there's a Scrivener's error that I'll take responsibility for. The changes that Kathleen shared with you with regard to Route 3 contained on page 90 and 91 of your packet did not make it into the text of the resolution before you. So if one of the board members would be so kind as to move to amend the resolution to include changes to Route 3 green as depicted in page 90 and 91 of your packet.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Director Clark, seconded by
Second.
Director Davidson.
Director Davidson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you, Mayor.
So we're able to proceed to the speakers.
Yes, sir.
We had two individuals from the public that have asked to speak on this issue. First is Regine Skelton. Regine, please come forward. Welcome. Please state your name and address. And
Regine Skelton, 206 Brook Hollow Court.
very good.
I just want to say that public transit is one of my favorite modes of transit whenever I'm traveling, no matter where, whether it's in this country or in other countries. It's much nicer than driving because the people who are traveling here don't know the area, and it's a lot easier to pre-plan everything. If all the routes are online, you can pre-pick all the places you're going to stay at. You can check and see if you can go to all the attractions you want to from your hotel, and you don't even have to think about renting a car. And the other thing, especially with these new flights we have, which are so awesome, I just want to say that it would make sense to me to make sure our last bus goes to at least that last flight so that someone could catch a flight and then get on a bus and get to their hotel. I think that would be a really worthwhile thing. And also, if it goes past 5, pretty sure there's a rule, something about 5 o'clock somewhere. So I would love people to be able to get home safely between 5 and 8:30. Even later would be great, but I understand there's a cutoff when the bus drivers want to go home too. So later the better as far as I'm concerned. Thank you all for listening and doing whatever you do.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Our second and final speaker on the subject is Stephen Ezell. Stephen, welcome. State your name and
Thank
address,
you, Mr. Mayor.
please.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm Steve Ezell. I live at 104 Chad Street. I'm out in the county, but I do represent a certain population, which happens to be our veterans. So I'm here for that reason because many of our veterans do have special needs in terms of getting around town, and some of them who've caught up into the court system and have had their license taken away, or in some way or another, they just have never had a chance to get a license. So the bus transportation happens to be the only mode of transportation around. So, which leads me to the second part. Many of my veterans who do work, some of them do work in the later evenings, and having the opportunity where the hours are a little bit later, they can kind of work with their employer to ensure that they're getting off in time to catch their bus. Certainly don't want a vet calling me up in the middle of the evening and saying I missed my bus. I certainly would want the board to take that into consideration, that we do have not just the general population out there who take the bus, but we do have the veterans out there who do not, and sometimes don't have the means to get around town. This would be a great opportunity for them to take advantage of this opportunity. So thank you, directors. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
City Manager. All right.
Appreciate you. Those were the only two individuals that have signed up. Was there anybody else who failed to sign up that wished to speak?
You have one.
Please come forward. State your name and address, please.
Evening. My name is Crystal Myers. I live at 421 Ramble Street on Park Avenue. Thank you for having me come up. I wanted to I work for the Hot Springs School District. I am the career instructional facilitator, and we're building our internship program. And one of the things that we are challenged with is getting our students to their internships. And we also have we have our parents that have challenges getting to school for parent-teacher conferences as well. So having that bus stop come in front of our school is so imperative. And we also want more students to take concurrent credits at National Park. And our VOTEC bus does not coincide with the concurrent credit class schedule. So our students that would be taking concurrent classes out at National Park could also ride the bus out to National Park and take that opportunity as well. So I'm here to advocate for our bus stop to be in front of our school and our junior academy for our community and our students and parents. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. All right. Discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mayor.
No, I was just going to say,
sorry.
my car's in the shop, and so I took the bus yesterday from where the car is, and also took a taxi tonight. And I want to tell you, both systems, the buses are clean, they don't smell bad, and everybody gets along, and it's like this little group that knows each other, because a lot of them see each other every day, you know, on their way to work. But it's much nicer than riding the bus in Dallas or the one time I did in New York. And it's I think we have an excellent bus system here, and I'm really proud of it. And if you're not using it, when your car's in the shop, it's great. You know, just go. They just stop wherever you want, so it's really
Thank
good.
you. Hearing no further comments, please call the roll.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll consider ordinance number 01838. Now entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Director Williams, seconded by Director Garcia. All in favor of suspending the rules to read by title only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Council, read by ordinance by title.
Ordinance 01839, an ordinance levying a supplemental annual assessment for the Central Crossing Municipal Property Owners Multipurpose Improvement District Number 051 of the City of Hot Springs for 2019 and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Davidson. And the staff report will be provided by Mr. Lance Spitzer.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is it's an annual item, if the board will recall. This is to levy a supplemental annual assessment for the Central Crossing Municipal Property Owners District. This is similar to the item that you will hear that most people are used to, Central Business Improvement Districts. This one's under just a little bit of a different statute provided in Arkansas Code. It's actually where you will find Olive Garden, Buffalo Wild Wings, that particular area. It was formed, basically it covers about 15.5 acres, and the site itself was formed obviously to bring different improvements, sewer, roadways, buried electric, etc. So the property owners there are requesting that the Board of Directors levy this supplemental annual assessment. It's a little over $5,000 over those various parcels. And really the supplemental is, as it sounds, it is to provide some assistance in the upkeep. They have really well-kept flower beds and shrubbery and garden. That's probably what the bulk of this would go towards. But the property owners there have done this upon themselves. This is not a taxation of the city. This is a taxation upon their property to better that particular 15.5 acres. So the request here is to approve the ordinance that will levy that supplemental assessment on the real property for 2019. So with this ordinance, we will pass it on to the tax collector for it to be put on the upcoming tax bills.
So this is a voluntary assessment.
It is.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Spitzer? We haven't had anybody sign up to speak on this issue, so we can call the roll, please.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. This time we'll consider ordinance number 01840. We'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So move.
Director Garcia, seconded by Director Clark. All in favor of suspending the rules and read by title only signify by saying aye.
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 Same sign. Motion is approved. Please read by title.
Ordinance 01840, an ordinance levying a supplemental annual assessment for the Central Business Improvement District Number 3 of the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas for 2019, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Director Jones and Director Williams, and thank you very much. Mr. Anthony Whittington will provide the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. This is similar to what Mr. Spicer mentioned with the Central Crossings. CBID 3 of the Central Business Improvement District 3 is comprised of 42 parcels from Prospect heading south to Market Street as the district boundaries. Each year since the inception, the CBID 3 themselves have levied a supplemental assessment on the real property in the district to assist the city in the cost of the maintain the various improvements with the district. We use that maintenance for parks and trails for the Hanging Baskets program. We use it for the flower beds in front of the Confederate Memorial, for example, and also for the Christmas banners and that kind of thing. Is some examples of that supplemental maintenance budget. According to state law, it must be approved each year by the governing body, which is the board of directors. So, again, the district themselves levy this, not the city. So the maintenance budget is $22,300, which corresponds with the maintenance budget that Parks and Trails submitted to the city. So.
Very good. Any questions, Mr. Whittington? Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, we've had no member of the audience sign up to speak on this issue. Is there any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Williams.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. At this time, we'll consider ordinance number 01841. I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title.
So moved.
Director Clark,
Second.
seconded by Director Davidson. All in favor of suspending the rules and read by title only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Please read by title.
Ordinance 01841, an ordinance approving the street naming of First Security Way and accepting certain street rights-of-way for city maintenance. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Director Clark, Director Jones. This time we have Denny McFate to provide a staff report. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor, and the members of the board. Mr. Greg Horton with First Security Bank is requesting the naming of a section of street that is located in the Central and Lakeland Addition subdivision, which is located at the corner of Central Avenue and Lakeland Drive. Mr. Horton is requesting naming the street First Security Way. The street has been inspected and meets the street specifications with the exception of a couple right-of-way widths. The general requirement for commercial street is normally 50 feet. In a particular section, they exceed this for 56 foot of the street is 56 foot of right-of-way, which exceeds the 50 required by 6, and it's for a distance of 125 feet. Then it drops down to 50 foot of right-of-way for approximately 250 more feet, and then 30 foot of right-of-way for approximately 360 more feet. Back to Lakeland. Staff's recommendation is approve the naming of the street First Security Way and acceptance of the street for city maintenance. And the reason these right-of-ways were varying was because of what they had to do to keep the utilities to service this subdivision. Any questions?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the very last thing you said.
The utilities to service this subdivision was the reason the variation in the right-of-ways. The biggest part, the widest part is coming off of Central, and then it gets narrow as it goes back to Lakeland.
You'd have to move the utilities. Is that it?
No, sir, it was to when they built the subdivision to accommodate future development.
Okay.
Besides the bank. There's 2 or 3 more lots behind them that's available to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions of Mr. McFate? Any further questions? Thank you. We've had no one from the audience sign up to speak? Any comments or questions or discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Garcia,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. This time we'll consider ordinance number 01842. Entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title.
So move.
Director Garcia, seconded by Director Clark. All in favor of suspending the rules and read by title only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Please read by title.
Ordinance 01842, an ordinance waiving the requirements of competitive bidding for certain services related to the operation and maintenance of a flood warning information system, the joint funding contract with the United States Department of the Interior U.S. Geological Survey, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Very good. Motion to adopt.
So move.
Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Williams.
Director Davidson. Beat you to it.
Well, I'm a little off tonight.
Way off.
Welcome back, Denny McVeigh.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Downtown Hot Springs has recorded significant historical flooding in the years, including but not limited to 1905, 1910, 23, 56, 63, 83, and in 1990, with the most recent one, which wasn't a very big one, but it did flood, was in April 2008. Downtown Hot Springs has had continuously operational flood warning systems since June of 2008 that was installed and is currently owned and maintained by the USGS. This system allows for city officials and the National Weather Service to alert businesses, residents, and tourists of potential flooding in the downtown area. The system is also linked to the City Code Red emergency phone warning system and the emergency siren warning systems as well. The system can assist engineers in the design for retention of floodwater in the upper portion of the Whittington and Park Avenue drainage basins. And additionally, this system will aid with the collection of data that can be used for flood frequency analysis. All of this information will be utilized to aid in the scope and the design of a system to ultimately eliminate flooding in the downtown area altogether. This information that has been collected since 2008 will be invaluable and utilized with a consent agenda item that we had on there on the consent agenda with a contract with FTN and Associates. They will be able to use this data with the funding of our FMA grant for engineering analysis of the potential detention system that would be located potentially in the Whittington Creek corridor. This system continues to gather valuable information that would be relied upon as funding becomes available for the design and construction of a detention system for the reduction and prevention of the downtown area, flooding of the downtown area. Another added value the system contributes to the community of Hot Springs is with respect to the city's participation in the National Flood Insurance Program. Hot Springs is currently rated a Class 8 in its participation in the NFIP. This means that our citizens receive a 10% cost savings on their flood insurance premiums. The flood warning system directly contributes much needed points that allows the city to retain this classification of Class 8. And allow our citizens to continue to receive those insurance premium discounts of 10%. USGS was selected in 2008 by review and rating selection process. They currently own and maintain the system and will continue to provide that service, including parts replacements and upgrades as needed. These upgrades are no additional yearly cost to the city. These funds were approved in the 2019 budget by the board for next year's first annual payment of $75,370, and this will be for a 5-year contract. Any questions?
Thank you. Director Garcia.
Would you mind, sometimes we're questioned why we don't, if we don't bid something out, but in this case it's unique. We're actually renewing something we already have and it's owned by the government. And previously we had problems before going to this system when it was in a, you
Yes,
provided
ma'am.
that background to us
I'd
the
be
other
glad
day.
to. In 1995, the city had a flood warning system installed that was in operation until 2000. Around 1998, the company that was maintaining and monitoring the system and keeping it going went bankrupt. And the system continued to operate till 2000, and then the Y2K bug in 2000 wiped out the software part of it. So when we went to back in 08 and late 07 and beginning of 08, looking at who we could get that we wouldn't have a chance of a risk opportunity of that happening to us again, we found out the USGS, matter of fact, the city of Hot Springs was the first city in the state of Arkansas to have a complete flood warning system. We were the model for them. And we partnered with them and figured that, the USGS would never go bankrupt or go out of business. It's been a wonderful partnership with us. Since then, they've grown to, because of what we've got, and other cities have seen it and how it works. There's quite a few communities around the state that's adopted this type of system. They're utilizing it to help protect their citizens and their communities from flooding.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that overview.
Thank you.
Again, we had no members of the audience sign up to speak on this item. Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our second to the last action item is ordinance number 01843, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title.
So move.
Director Garcia.
Second.
Seconded by Director Williams to suspend the rules and read by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Please read by title.
Ordinance 01843, an ordinance amending Ordinance 6030, approving changes to the street descriptions and suffixes of certain streets located in Bayshore Cove Horizontal Property Regime Phase 1 and 2 subdivision in Hot Springs, Arkansas. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion to second to adopt and have discussion.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Clark, seconded by
Second.
Director Garcia. Denny, you getting tired of
My last item.
jumping up and
My
down?
last item, sir. Thank you again.
Okay.
On June 3rd, 2014, Ordinance 6030 was approved, annexing Bayshore Cove Horizontal Property Regime Phase 1 and 2. That was approved by the Board of Directors, annexing that area. With this annexation, Sea Ray Circle, Clearwater Circle, and Clearwater Court were added to the City Master Street Inventory at that time. The streets were formally recognized by the county as private streets and will remain private streets, which is a Class C upon approval of this ordinance. The development of a new subdivision, Bayshore Cove Garden Homes, necessitates modifying descriptions of these three streets to facilitate the changes from the Bayshore Cove Garden Homes. There's a new street that's going in from Bayshore, and these streets are affected on what streets come off of which with that new development. So staff's recommendation is to change the street description of Sea Ray Circle, Clearwater Court, Clearwater Circle, and changing the suffix of Clearwater Circle to Clearwater Cove, and amend Ordinance 6030 to document these changes. Upon passage of the ordinance, the Master Street Index will be modified as follows. Sea Ray Circle will be from Seaside Cove southeast in the circle approximately 670 feet back to Seaside Cove. Originally, it went to Clearwater Circle. Clearwater Cove will go from Bayshore Cove north approximately 280 feet, then southwest approximately 540 feet to a dead end. And since the original phase of this subdivision had the street making a loop, which would qualify it as a circle, that phase is being now developed with this new Bayshore Cove Garden Home subdivision, so it will never be a circle. So therefore, the recommendation to change the circle suffix to cove takes care of that in this item. And then last, from Clearwater Cove southeast approximately, for Clearwater Court, from Clearwater Cove southeast approximately 191 feet to a dead end. And again, this one was previously described as coming off of Clearwater Circle, which is now we're renaming Clearwater Cove. Any questions? Basically housekeeping for our street master index.
Mm-hmm. I think you're all going to be tested on this first meeting in January.
Clear or I see.
How does for 911 and GPS programs, how does that get updated?
It doesn't change any of the addresses. All this does is change the description of where the street begins and ends in our master street index. We're careful not to change any of the addressing. Mm-hmm. The only name change on all of this would be Clearwater Cove. It was Clearwater Circle. So we're just changing the suffix there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And no members of the audience sign up to speak. Discussion amongst directors. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our final action item of the evening is ordinance number 01844. I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Williams.
Second.
Second.
Last opportunity to do
Is
so.
that the last motion of your career?
Never say never.
All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules to read by title only signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Please read by title.
Ordinance 01843, an ordinance authorizing a contract for services with Hot Springs Metro Partnership, waiving competitive bidding, and for other matters related thereto. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion, a second to adopt, and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Clark.
Second.
Director Williams seconded. All. Oh, we got to give a. Getting ahead of myself. I have gotten ahead of my. I'm sorry. I'm.
You've got it on the floor now.
We got it on the floor. Thank you.
staff.
So, Mayor, this is for the board's consideration this evening, a 2019 contract with Hot Springs Metro Partnership. For the past several years, they have been providing the economic development services for the city of Hot Springs. This year's contract is for the same amount as budgeted for last year, $100,000 for the economic development services, $12,500 for the relocation services. The scope of work that will be provided is delineated in Section 3 of the contract, which begins on page 2 of the agreement, found at page 152 of your packet. You previously heard this evening from Gary Troutman. He's here to speak to this item if the board should have any questions regarding the services to be provided.
And there were no other changes to the existing contract?
There were some housekeeping changes, yes, to bring it more up to date, but nothing of substance.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Very good. We had no members of the audience come forward to, or no one signed up. Do we have any discussion amongst directors?
Can we ask Mr.
Director
Troutman a question since he's
Pardon?
here? Can we ask Mr.
Yeah,
Troutman?
Director, Mr. Troutman, President of Hot Springs Metro Partnership. Welcome.
Thank you.
As we're going into the new year, we'll have a new legislative session, and as it's not laid out specifically in the agreement, but if there are issues that would specifically pertain to the city or cities coming up with your activities, would you work with still communicate with the city manager before any testimonies occur and keep us apprised of those bills that are of importance to the city?
Certainly, and also, since you brought it up, Director Garcia, we'll have the legislative reception for the city of Hot Springs. It's typically held at War Memorial in late January, so that'll be an opportunity for all of us in Hot Springs and Garland County to interact with the state legislators and direct any concerns their way. And if I may, since I'm already at the podium, I think I've given you the report on economic development. I haven't specifically talked about the relocation. I want to commend the city attorney, Mr. Albright, for meeting a week before last, but I do want to remind you, and specifically on relocation, that it was important to us to take advantage of Highway 70 East and what a great pathway that is to Benton and Little Rock. And having done so, and also having lived in Little Rock 20 years and being very sensitive to the cost of private school, and particularly in West Little Rock, which is, conceivably the shortest distance from 70 East into that part of Little Rock. we leased a billboard at 10 Mile Grocery, taking advantage of the 3 million visitors that Steve Ayerson has generated for our community with the wording, "You came to play, now come to stay, move to Hot Springs." So that's part of the relocation. Mara Kuhn, who has come to work for us at the Partnership and Chamber from the newspaper, produces a quarterly magazine, Splash Magazine, which is relocation, specifically relocation. We built out the website, as I've told you, with 61 Celsius, and we're working in conjunction with the Hot Springs Board of Realtors. We regularly attend their meetings, but also would remind you that Clay Farrar took it upon himself to produce a video last year that basically is look at our community. So we have those 4 things working on the relocation side as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, personally, I've been able to participate in any number of economic development events, whether it's veranda luxury line, expansion to general cable, or offer a statement on the expansion of timber automation, and any number of other activities amongst the 3 counties of Garland, Clark, and in Hot Spring County, and we got a lot of very positive things going, and this contract has good value and will produce dividends. We had a real special event not that long ago, which we're all very hopeful that will produce dividends, and so I'm looking forward to 2019 and working with Gary and his team and working with others to enhance job opportunities here for our people. So
thank you,
Thank
Mayor.
you for all you
Appreciate
do.
that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, but I just appreciate you taking time to answer my question when I ask you. We can't say it in front of the mayor, but
Happy
thank
to,
you
Director
very
Jones.
much.
Very happy to. Thank you.
She will find you.
Any other questions of Mr. Troutman?
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all. Appreciate it.
Now discussion amongst directors. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. This concludes the action items for the evening. Now we have items, Board of Directors announcements. Any announcements from individual Board of Directors? Can we hold on you for a second?
Okay, thank you.
I didn't say a word.
Anyone other than Director Williams?
Okay.
I thought I had something, Director Williams. It wasn't going to take very long, but go right ahead.
Okay, well, fortunately for some of you, this will be the last time you have to listen to me tonight because this is my final meeting as city director. I really have enjoyed serving as a city director. As you know, I elected, however, to run for another office this year and announced that decision a year ago. And I ran for state land commissioner, a job I was very well acquainted with. I was the most qualified candidate running for the position. The voters just didn't know it. I was endorsed by Charlie Daniels, who held that job from 1985 to 2003. So I just want to just put my campaign to bed before I move to talking about the city. But from the time I was a little boy, I always wanted to run for statewide office, and this was just the right opportunity for a lot of reasons, which I won't go into. So at the end of the day, I received more votes than any Democrat running for statewide office. And to be exact, 323,682 votes. I polled the highest percentage of votes received by any Democrat. I carried 10 counties, which is 2 more than any Democrat carried. I was the only Democrat to carry Monroe and Woodruff counties. I logged some 12,000 miles. I gave 41 speeches, and I made over 100 appearances. I actually had a good time doing this. and it was an experience of a lifetime for me personally. However, it resulted in me getting to go off this board. So I just want to share a few things with you in parting. My campaign website, which, by the way, was excellent. I don't think many people went to it, but if you went to it, you couldn't help but say, this guy's the most qualified. But this is what my campaign website said about my service on the board. As a city director, Williams worked for downtown revitalization, public safety improvements, a long-term water supply, and city-county cooperation. He also sponsored an ordinance requiring 24 hours notice of all special board meetings instead of the minimum 2-hour notice required by the state's Freedom of Information Act. And some of the votes that I cast, we come up here and we vote all the time. And so I have some memorable votes. There's not more than 5 or 6, so bear with me, that I cast during my tenure on the board, which I am particularly proud of. In no particular order they are. I voted for the non-discrimination ordinance. I voted to condemn, acquire, and clean up the Majestic Hotel site. I am the only city director who never voted to deny water service to a commercial business in the city's 1 Mile planning area, earning me the nickname of 1 Mile Williams. I joined in a 4-3 majority to oppose locating the city's new water tower in a residential area, going against both a staff and a planning commission recommendation. I supported annexation where I thought it was needed, such in areas as enclaves A and B. But I was the only director to vote against Enclave D, which I didn't feel like we needed into the city. We did approve it, but later we repealed that action. This board did. Now, some board members have affectionately referred to me as a curmudgeon. But I'm really not a grumpy, difficult, ill-tempered, cantankerous guy. Rather, I view myself as a contrarian. Now, a contrarian is a person who takes an opposing view, especially one who rejects the majority opinion. That was never more on display, my contrarian tendencies, than 2 years at the final meeting of this board, where not only was I the only board member to vote against the Enclave D annexation, I was also the only board member to vote against an amendment to restore full funding for the health department, and I was the only board member to vote against the 2017 budget. And so somehow I managed to make somebody, either in the public or on this board, mad on at least one of those votes I cast that night. But I want to just, one night I was here and one of my fellow colleagues said, I'm voting to uphold the Planning Commission. And I thought back to when I was county judge, my last county judge story.
All right.
When the chairman of the Equalization Board, who I had appointed, came to me and he said, now, Judge Williams, we really expect you to uphold all our decisions. And I responded that I usually did. I said, but that's not my job to rubber stamp what you guys do. I am a step in the appeals process. And if I'm not going to objectively listen to these appeals, then why should anybody bother to appeal? That's right. And so I remember on that same night that director said that, then I voted against that recommendation. I was the only one, because that story has always stayed with me. And I think people are entitled, and we should remember this. This is my parting, shot here, that we are a step in the appeal process. And a lot of times when we're hearing something, it's de novo. We're starting new. And we owe it to our citizens to give them a fair hearing on their appeals, even if we think the Planning Commission or some other board or commission has done the right thing. So, I leave you tonight in high spirits and with nothing but goodwill. It's been a pleasure to serve with you, Mayor McCabe, to both my present and former board members. It has been certainly been an experience of which I'm very proud. We have an excellent staff who are dedicated to serving our citizens in a courteous and professional manner. And I'm particularly going to miss Sheila Winter, the executive assistant to our city manager, because she has treated me like a king for the last 4 years. And finally, I want to thank the voters of District 4 who have given me this opportunity to serve on this board for the last 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad he wasn't talking about me, aren't you?
Lance turned the 3-minute timer off.
From you? He would have slapped my hand.
Well, Director Williams, one thing I'll say is I always appreciated your ability to provide to the balance of the board the insight on county government workings, the workings of county government, because it aided us to better understand, how they work so we can interact more appropriately. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Well, normally we look to Elaine to make this motion, and we were going to look to you to close us out for 20. We don't have any other business, right?
Does some other directors might have something they want to announce?
I thought the mayor had something.
No, I didn't have anything.
No?
Okay, I move we adjourn.
Hey, now, I'll second that.
A second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Well, this says Larry Williams on
Yeah,
it.
that one's.
And this says, is this mine or Lance's?
No, that one's from yours from.
Randy? Gosh, I didn't get board members any gifts.
Oh, and she thought that was from him. We should have had.